Assalamu alaikum and hello dear viewers. States they go to war, states they have disputes with one another, and states they want to have cooperation with one another. States and leaders they conduct diplomacy, and states and leaders they also join international organizations. Sometimes they threat other states, and sometimes they have cordial relationships with one another. So what the main thing behind them, that is national interest. Today we'll discuss about the concept of national interest, that how much it is important in the field of international relations, and why states they are very much concerned about the national interest, from where this national interest originated. We will cover all these things, but so far if you have not subscribed this YouTube channel, please do subscribe it, press the bell icon to be informed with my new interesting video uploads, and also share this channel link with your contacts and friends. What is national interest? Actually, the national interest is the prime thing, it is the foremost important thing in any action of a state. As I told you in my introduction, that states they go to war and states they have cooperation with one another. They join, and they also want to have international organizations. So all these things show that the main thing behind a state, that is the national interests. Once there was religion important in Europe, if we see before the 16th and 15th century Europe, so the rivalry between the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church, and how the European powers they fought wars in the name of religion. So that time national interest that was secondary when we compare it with that of religion. So religion was the foremost things. Even wars they were fought in the name of religion in Europe. But for the first time, that was France, when the French government took initiative, and even in the 30 Years' War, France advocated the concept of national interest. When the chief minister of France, he was actually the follower of Catholicism, but he fought against the Roman Catholic emperor, and he sided with the Protestantism. So that was for the first time that have national interest, it got prominence, and it became the fundamental thing in any course of action of the state, and then religion became the secondary one. So all kinds of relations, whether that is the political, economic, military, cultural, or otherwise, the main thing for action of a state and foreign policy to conduct, that is the national interest. Many thinkers and theoreticians, philosophers, they have talked about the national interest, but we have the Italian political philosopher Niccolo Machiavelli, who is regarded as the first man to rightly advocate the concept of national interest. He has written a book, The Prince, and he is regarded as one of the founding fathers of political realism, or realist school of thought, or realist theory and international relations. So after him, then many scholars they also talked about the national interest, such as we have the 20th century theoretician Hans J. Margenthaler. He has written a book which was published in 1948, and the book is Politics Among Nations, Struggle for Power and Peace. In that book, he has described 6 principles of political realism. Hans J. Margenthaler is also considered as the one of the modern fathers of political realism, or realist theory and international relations. So in those 6 principles of political realism, the second point and the second principle what he talks about, that is that the main signpost which helps political realism to find its way through the landscape of international politics is the concept of interest defined in terms of power. Let me tell you again. He says the second principle of political realism or realist school of thought, the realist theory of international relations, is the main signpost which helps political realism to find its way through the landscape of international politics is the concept of interest defined in terms of power. He is educating national interest, and he is also putting this national interest in the paradigm of power. Actually, he is a realist, so that's why power is important for him. Actually, he talks about the hard power. So states, they build their militaries, states, they join military alliances, and the foremost thing for any state, according to realism, that is security, survival, because international system that is anarchic, there is no such authority which can control actions and which can dictate states for such and such action. That's why every state is responsible for its own security by itself. So states, they want to be survived, and states, they want to be stronger and stronger. So there is also concept of security dilemma. There is also concept of the balance of power, balance of terror, balance of threat, the coercive diplomacy, the threatening diplomacy, gunboat diplomacy, and so on and so on. I mean, if we talk in the language and in the perspective of realist school of thought or political realism, states, they go to war, and states, they don't compromise on its security, survival, and sovereignty. Main thing and factor for a state, that is the pursuit of national interest. So in international arena, the states, they pursue their national interests. Sometimes if it is in the interest of a state, it will join international organization. If it is not in the interest of a state, it will not join international organization. If it is in the interest of a state, so a leader will go to war. If not, then will not indulge in a war. It was in the national interest of the United States that was not, they did not join the League of Nations. Even the League of Nations international organization was proposed by the then US President Woodrow Wilson, but United States did not join it. And even US did not join, it did not involve itself in the Second World War until Pearl Harbor attack happened, and then in 1941, then the US President Roosevelt, he decided now to take part in the Second World War. So that was the isolationist policy of the United States. After the Second World War, we see that the main player in international system, that is the US, which is educating the world order, the monetary system, and also the political international system. So the inclusion or exclusion of a state in any international system, in any body, in any international organization, in a war, in a peaceful diplomacy, or in all these things, the main thing which pushes a state for a possible and particular course of action, that is the national interest. So on the other hand, liberals, they also criticize the notion of national interest defined by the political realist. They say that there is not only the power, there is not only the war, there is not only the hegemony, and not only the question of survival, but even we can change all these things, having the concept of collective security, having the concept of international organization. So that is also in the interest of a state. If we see domestically, internally, politicians, statesmen, policymakers, the generals, military personnel, they also use the term national interest. Now, what is actually the national interest is, that is, if it is in the interest of a state and if it is in the interest of the people, then actually we can call it as the national interest. But sometimes the politicians, the policymakers, leaders, they just cloak themselves under the term of national interest, but actually they pursue their own groups, their own parties, their own personal interest, and they call them as the national interest. Actually, national interest, if it preserves and the sovereignty and security of a state, if any action, it can bring prosperity for the long term to the government, to the state, to the frontiers of the state, and to the common people. Common people is the most important thing. In a welfare state, if a common man is not happy, it means then state is not delivering and not having justice with its own action. So national interest is the main thing. In Urdu, we can call it as Qomi Mafad. Sometimes our politicians, our responsible people, they also say that in Urdu, if I say, ये हमारे कौमी मफाद में है, या कौमी मफाद को मद्देनज़र रखती हुए हम ये ख़ास एक्शन ले रहे हैं. So that कौमी मफाद, कौमी मफादात, I mean national interest or national interests, that is the primacy in a course of action by the state, if it is within the state, the boundaries of the state, or beyond the boundaries of the state, an international system. All the theories, almost, they talk in one way or the other about the national interest. Actually, if we see the concept of power, so there is hard power, the military one, there is soft power, I mean the power of ideas, the power of knowledge, the power of science and technology, the power of cinema, the power of culture, the power of religion, and so on and so on. And some scholars, they say that there is also a smart power, and smart power, that is the combination, amalgamation of both hard power and soft power. So what is in the interest of a state, and what course of action secures the interest, national interest of a state, the action will be followed and the power will be used by a state, whether that is the hard power, soft power, or smart power. So it is very important for all the state to pursue their national interest, and they use any mean for that. Sometimes even go to war, and sometimes to be very peaceful and very having diplomatic means. But there is no compromise on the national interest. So national interest, that is the foremost fundamental and the prime thing. It has primacy in international politics. Dear viewers, I hope you enjoyed the video. For more videos, keep watching the channel. Take care.